Okay, so you want to own a casino. Build a big shiny building, put in some slot machines, some card tables, turn on the lights, and watch people hand you their money all night long. That's the picture in most people's heads. A casino feels like the easiest business in the world. You don't even make anything. People just walk in and lose money to you, on purpose, for fun. Here is what that picture leaves out. The building alone can cost more than a professional sports stadium. The license to even open the doors can take years and tens of millions of dollars just to get approved. And the machines and tables that look like pure profit are only a small part of how a real casino actually survives. Let's take this apart piece by piece, the way someone who actually runs one of these places has to see it. First, let's talk about why a casino is even allowed to exist, because that single fact shapes almost everything else about this business. Gambling is illegal in most places unless a government specifically says otherwise. That means before you build anything, before you buy a single slot machine, you need a license from a state or national gaming authority. And that license is not handed out casually. In the United States, a full commercial casino license can cost anywhere from a few $1,000,000 in a smaller state to well over $50 million in a competitive market like New York. Applicants often have to pay a non-refundable application fee just for the privilege of being considered, sometimes $1 million or more, and there is no guarantee you win the license at all. Some states run this like an auction. Whoever promises the most jobs, the most tax revenue, and the most investment gets the nod. Everyone else who spent years and millions of dollars preparing simply walks away with nothing. Once you have the license, the government does not disappear. It stays involved forever. Regulators require background checks on every major investor, every senior executive, sometimes even key vendors. They set rules on how much you can pay out, how your machines must be tested, how your cash gets counted, and how often auditors can walk in unannounced. This is one of the most heavily supervised industries on Earth, and the reason is simple. A casino handles enormous amounts of cash every single day, and governments do not want that cash disappearing into places they cannot see. So, before you have built a single wall, you have already spent tens of millions of dollars just to get permission to try. Now let's talk about the building itself, because a casino is not really a gambling hall with a roof over it. It is closer to a small city. The Marina Bay Sands in Singapore cost around $5.5 billion to build. The Wynn Palace in Macau came in around $4.2 billion. Even a mid-sized regional casino in the United States, the kind you might find off a highway exit rather than on the Las Vegas Strip, can cost $300 million to $800 million once you include the hotel towers, the parking structures, and the surrounding infrastructure. Why does it cost so much? Because a modern casino is never just a casino. It is a casino, a hotel, several restaurants, a spa, a theater, a shopping mall, and sometimes a convention center, all stitched together into one building that never closes. Every one of those pieces needs its own construction budget, its own staff, and its own maintenance plan. The gaming floor itself, the part most people picture when they hear the word casino, often makes up less than a quarter of the total building. Here's the part that surprises a lot of new owners. The gambling floor is deliberately the most expensive part of the building to build per square foot, but it earns back its cost the fastest. Reinforced flooring for heavy slot machines, specialized wiring for thousands of electronic terminals running at once, high security vaults, and a surveillance system covering every inch of the room. All of that adds up quickly. A single casino's video surveillance system, known in the industry as the eye in the sky, can involve thousands of cameras feeding into a control room that never stops watching. That system alone can cost several $1 million to install and requires a dedicated team working every hour of every day. Let's talk about that surveillance obsession for a second, because it explains a lot about how this industry thinks. A casino is one of the only businesses in the world where a single employee, working alone for just a few minutes, can steal enough money to matter. A dealer can palm chips. A cashier can miscount a stack of bills on purpose. A slot technician can quietly tamper with a machine's payout settings. Because of this, casinos build layers of checks that would look almost paranoid in any other industry. Cameras watch the dealers. Supervisors watch the cameras. Auditors review the supervisors. And every chip, every dollar, every payout gets logged and cross-checked multiple times before the night is over. This isn't decoration. It's the actual immune system of the business. Now, here's where it gets interesting. because this is the part almost nobody outside the industry actually understands. People assume a casino makes its money purely by being lucky, that somehow the house just wins because of magic or rigged machines. That is not how it works. And once you understand the real mechanism, the entire business suddenly makes perfect sense. Every single game in a casino, whether it's roulette, blackjack, or a slot machine, is built around a mathematical concept called the house edge. It means that over a large number of bets, the casino is mathematically guaranteed to keep a small percentage of everything wagered. In American roulette, the house edge is around 5.26%. In blackjack, if a player plays with perfect strategy, the house edge can drop below 1%, but most players don't play perfectly, so the real number the casino earns is usually closer to 2%. Slot machines vary widely, but many are programmed to return somewhere between 85 and 98% of every dollar wagered back to players over time, meaning the casino keeps the rest. Here's why this matters so much. The casino does not need to win every hand or every spin. In fact, players win constantly. Walk onto any casino floor and you will see people cheering, cashing out, celebrating a jackpot. That is real. The house edge does not mean the casino wins every bet. It means that across millions of bets placed every single day, the math evens out in the casino's favor by a small, steady percentage. It's the same principle an insurance company uses. Any single policy might cost the insurer money, but across a huge pool of policies, the math works out reliably in their favor. This is why casinos genuinely do not care if you win big on a Tuesday night. In fact, they want you to. A big win spreads by word of mouth, brings you back next weekend, and brings your friends with you. The casino isn't betting against you personally. It's betting on volume, on thousands of hands and spins happening every hour, every day, all year long. But here's the twist. The house edge on the actual gambling is not even the biggest source of profit for most modern casinos anymore. That's only the beginning. Walk through the numbers of a large integrated resort casino, and you'll find that gaming revenue, meaning the money made directly from slot machines and table games, often makes up less than half of total revenue. In places like Las Vegas, non-gaming revenue, hotel rooms, restaurants, nightclubs, shopping, shows, and convention space has grown to represent well over 60% of what these resorts actually earn. The casino floor is still the engine that pulls people through the door, but once they're inside, the real money often comes from everything around it. Think about why this makes sense. A hotel room in a casino resort isn't priced like a normal hotel room. It's priced as a tool to get you onto the gaming floor and to keep you there longer. Rooms are sometimes offered at a discount, or even free, to serious gamblers, because the casino has calculated that the value of keeping that person gambling for 3 extra nights is worth far more than the cost of the room itself. This is called a comp, short for complimentary, and it is one of the oldest tricks in the casino playbook. Free drinks while you play, discounted buffets, free show tickets. None of it is generosity. It's a calculated investment designed to keep you on the floor longer, because every extra hour you spend playing is another hour the house edge has to work in the casino's favor. Restaurants and shops inside a casino resort also behave differently than they do anywhere else. Because foot traffic is essentially guaranteed, thanks to the thousands of people walking through the resort every single day, casinos can charge premium rents to outside brands wanting a location inside the building. A single high-end restaurant lease inside a major Las Vegas casino can run into the millions of dollars per year, and luxury retail brands pay similarly high rents for a storefront inside the resort shopping promenade. The casino isn't just running games anymore. It's running a landlord business layered on top of a hospitality business, layered on top of an entertainment business. Now, let's talk about who actually loses the most money at a casino, because this is another detail that surprises people. It is not the tourist who walks in once a year and plays a few hands of blackjack for fun. The overwhelming majority of casino revenue, in many markets well over 70%, comes from a relatively small group of frequent, high-spending players. The industry calls its most valuable customers whales, a term for gamblers who wager extraordinary sums, sometimes millions of dollars in a single visit. For a whale, casinos will roll out an entirely different experience. Private jets sent to pick them up, personal hosts assigned to manage every detail of their stay, suites that cost thousands of dollars a night, given away entirely for free. In some cases, Resorts have built entire private gaming salons just for a handful of elite players, with dedicated dealers and total privacy. Why would a casino spend that much on one person? Because a single high-stakes player betting tens of thousands of dollars per hand over many hours, across many visits, can generate more profit for the casino than an entire section of slot machines combined. But here's the risk hiding inside that strategy. Whales are unpredictable in a way ordinary gamblers are not. A regular slot machine player loses a small, statistically reliable amount over time. A whale betting enormous sums can, on a bad night for the house, walk away with a win so large it actually shows up as a loss on the casino's quarterly earnings report. Some of the biggest single-night losses in casino history have come from exactly this scenario. A wealthy player gets hot at the tables. The house edge simply doesn't have time to average out over just a few hours, and the casino writes a very large check. This is why casinos set strict limits on how much any single player can bet per hand, and why credit extended to high rollers is tracked with extreme care. The whole system works because of large numbers. A single whale on a lucky streak is the one situation where the math briefly stops favoring the house. Now let's talk about the machines themselves, because slot machines deserve special attention. They are, in almost every casino in the world, the single largest source of gaming revenue, often responsible for well over 60% of a casino's total gambling income. And the reason has everything to do with psychology, not luck. A slot machine is engineered, in extraordinary detail, to keep a player in what the industry itself calls the zone. This means near misses, where the symbols line up just one position away from a jackpot, happen far more often than pure random chance would suggest. Sounds and lights celebrate small wins as if they were big ones, even when a player actually lost money overall on that spin because they bet more than they won back. Every element, the pacing of the spins, the sound design, the way credits are displayed as numbers instead of real currency, is built by teams of game designers and behavioral psychologists specifically to extend how long someone plays. This is also why slot machines are so profitable to operate compared to table games. A blackjack table needs a dealer, sometimes a pit boss watching over several tables, and can typically handle a handful of players at once. A slot machine needs no dealer at all, can run 24 hours a day without a break, and one slot technician can service dozens of machines across a shift. The labor cost per dollar wagered on a slot machine is a fraction of what it costs to run a table game. That's exactly why, if you walk onto almost any modern casino floor, slot machines vastly outnumber table games, sometimes by a ratio of 5 or 6 to 1. So far, this sounds like one of the most reliable businesses on the planet. Predictable math, guaranteed edge, layers of psychology working in the house's favor. But casinos fail constantly, and understanding why reveals the real risk hiding underneath all that math. The first problem is fixed costs. A casino resort, once built, has enormous expenses that do not care whether the gaming floor is busy or empty. Staffing alone is staggering. A large integrated resort can employ anywhere from 5,000 to over 12,000 people: dealers, security officers, hotel staff, chefs, entertainers, maintenance crews, surveillance operators, accountants, and executives. Payroll for an operation this size can run into the hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Utilities for a building that never turns off its lights, its air conditioning, or its neon signage add millions more. Property taxes on a facility worth billions of dollars are enormous on their own. None of these costs shrink just because business slows down. During the early 2020s, when travel restrictions closed casinos around the world for extended periods, resorts in Las Vegas and Macau were still carrying enormous fixed costs with almost zero revenue coming in. Some of the largest operators in the world reported billions of dollars in losses in a single year. The lesson underneath that collapse is the same one that shows up across almost every capital-heavy industry. A business built on enormous fixed infrastructure is only as strong as its ability to keep that infrastructure full, night after night, year after year. Then there is competition, which has become one of the biggest threats the traditional casino industry has ever faced. For decades, a physical casino had something close to a local monopoly. If you wanted to gamble, you had to physically travel to a licensed location. That monopoly is gone. Online betting platforms and mobile sports betting apps now let a person gamble from their couch, with none of the overhead of a physical building. Several American states have legalized online gaming in recent years, and every dollar wagered on a phone is a dollar that isn't being spent walking through a physical casino's front door. Physical casinos have had to respond by doubling down on exactly the thing an app cannot replicate: the in-person experience. This is why so much recent casino investment has gone toward entertainment, concerts, celebrity chef restaurants, immersive nightlife, rather than simply adding more slot machines. The pure gambling transaction can happen on a phone now. What can't happen on a phone is a live concert, a five-star dinner, or a weekend at a rooftop pool with your friends. The physical casino is increasingly selling an experience that technology cannot copy, because the moment it stops offering something genuinely special, a phone app becomes a cheaper, easier competitor sitting in everyone's pocket. There's also a quieter risk that runs through the entire industry, and it's one regulators watch closely: problem gambling. A small percentage of players develop genuinely harmful gambling habits, and this creates both a moral responsibility and a serious financial risk for casino operators. Regulators in most jurisdictions require casinos to fund responsible gambling programs, offer self-exclusion lists where a person can voluntarily ban themselves from the property, and train staff to recognize warning signs. Ignoring these obligations doesn't just risk fines, it risks the license itself, the single most valuable asset the entire business depends on. A casino can spend billions building a resort, but one serious regulatory violation can put that entire investment at risk. Money laundering is another shadow that has followed this industry for decades. Because casinos handle such enormous volumes of cash, they have historically been an attractive target for criminals trying to make illegally obtained money look legitimate. A person buys a large stack of chips with dirty cash, plays a few minimal bets, then cashes out the remaining chips and receives a clean casino check instead. Regulators have cracked down hard on this over the years, requiring casinos to report large cash transactions, track suspicious betting patterns, and verify the identity of high-spending players. Compliance departments inside major casinos now rival small banks in how carefully they monitor financial activity, and the cost of running that compliance operation is itself a significant, unavoidable business expense. Let's put some real numbers together and see what this actually looks like for a mid-sized regional casino, the kind you might find in a smaller American city rather than on the Las Vegas Strip. Say the casino has around 1,500 slot machines and 60 table games, plus a modest hotel and a couple of restaurants attached. On a typical day, that many slot machines, running at a healthy pace, might generate somewhere around $150,000 in net gaming revenue after payouts. Table games might add another $60,000 to $80,000. Across a full year, gaming revenue alone for a property like this can land somewhere between $60 and $90 million. Now subtract the costs. Payroll for a mid-sized property like this can easily run $25 to $35 million a year. State gaming taxes, which vary enormously depending on where the casino operates, but often sit somewhere between 15% and 40% of gross gaming revenue, take another significant slice. Add utilities, maintenance, marketing, and the comps given away to keep players coming back, and the operating margin on the gaming side of the business often lands somewhere between 10% and 20% in a strong year. That sounds solid, but here's the honest caveat. That margin depends entirely on steady, predictable traffic. A slow economy, a new competing casino opening nearby, or a shift toward online betting in that state can each shave several percentage points off attendance. And because so much of the cost structure is fixed, a modest drop in visitors can turn a healthy profit margin into a thin one very quickly. So does owning a casino actually work as a business? The honest answer depends entirely on scale, location, and how well the operator understands that gambling itself is only one piece of a much bigger machine. A small standalone casino competing purely on slot machines and card tables, with no hotel, no entertainment, and no meaningful experience beyond the games themselves, is fighting an uphill battle against online platforms that can offer the same odds without any of the overhead. A large, well-run integrated resort, the kind with a hotel, restaurants, shows, shopping, and a genuine sense of destination, operates on a completely different level. It isn't really selling gambling anymore. It's selling an entire weekend, an entire experience, with gambling as the centerpiece that pulls people through the door and keeps the math working quietly in the background. The house edge is real. The psychology behind the slot machines is real, and the numbers do genuinely favor the casino over time. But none of that math matters if the building sitting on top of it can't stay full. A casino, in the end, is not really a gambling business. It's a hospitality business with a mathematical engine hidden inside it. The chips, the cards, the spinning reels, that's just the machine that quietly keeps the lights on while everything else in the building convinces you to stay just one more night.